Most healthcare leaders only see compliance from one side of the table. Today's guest has sat on both. On this episode of The Compliance Advantage, Ross sits down with guest Marc Bonora, Chief Legal Officer at AccentCare. Marc brings a career that spans government enforcement at the DOJ and U.S. Attorney's Office, in-house legal leadership across physician services and healthcare staffing, and now oversight of legal strategy for one of the largest home health and hospice providers in the country. In this episode, Marc shares what he learned about compliance programs while on the government side and how perspective shapes his leadership today. He and Ross explore how board-level engagement strengthens a compliance program while being proactive creates a true strategic advantage, and what it takes to build a kind of transparency that earns trust from the top down. This is a conversation about what it looks like when compliance, legal, and leadership all move in the same direction.
Welcome to the Compliance Advantage podcast. This is where healthcare executives transform compliance from a burden into a strategic asset that drives both growth and peace of mind. I'm your host, Ross Ronan, founder of Ronan Healthcare Compliance and a healthcare compliance strategist with nearly 30 years of industry experience. I'll help you stay ahead of evolving regulations while building the sustainable, compliant organization that lets you focus on high-level strategy and exceptional patient outcomes. Remember, compliance pays dividends. Invest today. Welcome to the Compliance Advantage. Today we have a really special guest, a good friend of mine, Marc Bonora, who's the Chief Legal Officer for AccentCare. Marc, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and then how you got there. So what are you doing now with AccentCare?
Sure. Well, I'm the Chief Legal Officer at AccentCare, which is a Dallas-based home health and hospice company. We have a presence in over 30 states, and I've been there just under a year now.
Excellent. What made you make the move to that company?
Really was just looking for the next opportunity. I was fortunate enough to be general counsel in my prior company, in Genovis Health, which was a healthcare staffing provider, and wanted to get back to more pure healthcare and found this opportunity, which has been a great fit.
Let's take a look at your background here, because you have probably one of the most diverse backgrounds that I've seen as a CLO. And it's really beneficial for us because we get to talk to people who have been kind of both sides of the aisle. So let's talk a little bit about where you started and then how you got to be on the kind of provider side, the healthcare side that's a little different than the enforcement side.
Sure. Well, after law school, I started in the private sector at some big law firms. That wasn't really the fit I was looking for, so I got into the government, Department of Justice, and later the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Denver. And I found that work very fulfilling. We considered it not the dark side.
Of course you do.
I honestly felt like we were wearing the white hats.
Sure.
And in our investigations and our prosecutions and our lawsuits, it's a very empowering feeling to feel like you're on the side of the government and the American people. And that's a big motivator for people in those careers.
It's interesting because, like I said, we don't get to talk to people who have been on both sides of the aisle here. And when you think about the work that you've done, and I joke about being on the dark side, but I've worked with the OIG many, many years, 15, 20 years. And the relationships that I've built with them have been nothing but positive, right? And I think that's a really good way for people in compliance or healthcare companies to see the federal government, especially the enforcement sides of it, where you can say, look, yeah, they have a job to do, and their job to do is enforcement and to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. And on that same side, so should we as legal CLOs and CCOs, compliance officers and general counsels, we should be doing the exact same thing. That's the whole point about it. When you were at the U.S. Attorney's Office and the DOJ, how did you see different companies? And I don't think you were doing healthcare enforcement. Were you doing other stuff, or were you doing both healthcare? And what was your kind of DOJ and
right.
U.S. Attorney's?
I had a few different roles in DOJ. Actually, I started out in national security, but then I transitioned to other practices, including some healthcare enforcement.
You did.
Wasn't the main thing that I did, but sure. I did touch on that, as well as civil suits and some criminal prosecution as well.
That's funny. How long have we known each other? 10, 15 years, probably somewhere around there.
Over 10.
Yeah, you didn't have as much gray back then. I've never had any gray because I don't have any hair. So I don't think we've ever really sat down and talked about that side of your life and that side of your professional career, because you were always on the healthcare side of it. When you were looking at or kind of prosecuting, enforcing things on the governmental side, did you come across different companies who have made an effort to put compliance programs in place or put kind of controls in place to ensure they didn't have fraud, waste, and abuse and those other kind of mechanisms? And if you did that kind of give you some, I don't know, sense of relief that they may be doing it and it's not intentional? Like, how did you see those kind of companies who may have been trying?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And obviously I'm only speaking for myself here.
Of course. This is only your opinion. I understand.
I'm not speaking for the government nor for any company I've ever worked for. But I think part of the challenge when you're in the government, on the government side, is that, again, you feel like you're on the side of the right. So if you are looking into an organization, a company, a program, you have some suspicion or concern that there is a problem. Sure. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been on your radar. So there's a little bit of a hurdle from the very beginning. If you're in the company, if you're the chief compliance officer, the chief legal officer, the CEO, you kind of need to win the hearts and minds of the government.
Yep.
And you may never do that. You may partially do that. But even from the very beginning, you want to be able to kind of come with an open heart and open hand,
sure,
hear the government out, be above board, show that you do have that compliance program, that you can point to a program and a system that you've been utilizing to actually be on the same side as the government, like you were just referring to, because we all have an interest in
sure,
being compliant.
Yeah.
So there's that challenge from day one. But as a government attorney, if you are dealing with a company that appears to have those appropriate systems and checks and balances and safeguards in place, I wouldn't necessarily say that it feels like a relief, but it's a very important data point. And you might say, oh, okay, there probably is not likely intentional wrongdoing here. Okay, these are probably not bad guys who are just in it for a buck.
Right.
And that's good to know.
I mean, because shit happens, right? And especially in healthcare, stuff happens all the time and we have to deal with it. And that's what a compliance program should say. It's like, we can't prevent everything from happening, but we can prevent, detect, and mitigate them from future happenings if you find something that's wrong. And I'm sure that when you looked at it from your side of the enforcement action, and we'll get into kind of how your perception has changed being on the other side, I'm sure you looked at it to say, is this a bookshelf program or is this actually something that works and operates, right? Because a lot of people from a compliance perspective, a lot in healthcare will just buy policies and procedures, buy a code of conduct, slip it in the bookshelf and go, look, there's my compliance program right there. I'll just pull it down when someone asks for it, right? It's not a living, breathing thing. I'm sure that was part of your evaluation too.
I'd say if you don't have anything at all, if you haven't even gone through the effort of buying something off the shelf that you can point to, then you're really up the creek, because either you didn't even know that you needed compliance or you just completely ignored it for other business interests. So I honestly, I'd rather have something you just bought and put on the shelf than nothing at all.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. You and I worked together in a company. I was compliance and you were legal department. Then you transitioned from that company to another company where you were both general counsel and compliance officer for that company. Tell me how your kind of mindset may have changed looking at it from that standpoint, where the buck stopped where you were at. Right. And then kind of how did you start creating that experience where you became a strategic partner?
Right. Well, at Ingenitus Health, which you're referring to, I was both hired as general counsel, but then also became the chief compliance officer. And that was because it was a roll up of several smaller companies that were not as sophisticated or robust as far as having compliance departments, standalone efforts in that area. So being in the chief role in that organization, which was now big enough that it should have those types of systems and programs in place, gave me the opportunity to very easily go to the CEO and say, hey, I think we're missing this. We were not in the healthcare reimbursement program. So we were sort of healthcare adjacent, which gave us a little more leeway to get this up and running. Our clients were all getting reimbursed, and contractually we had the obligations that they did. So I said, look, we've got an obligation. And it's just good for business, by the way, if we have a compliance program that we can point to where we are doing the things that our clients do, so that if we ever are investigated, more likely secondarily than being the target, that we would have what we needed to show.
So I love this kind of perspective because being healthcare adjacent, or we'll just call it like a business associate of some other covered entity, everything always comes back to HIPAA terminology, right? So being kind of healthcare adjacent, and you and I talked about this quite a bit over the years, this podcast is the compliance advantage. And I think what you were doing at Ingenivis and the direction that you took as compliance and legal, I mean, even having that discussion with your CEO and your board was, look, yeah, we're not billing, collecting, so we don't have that same kind of False Claims Act type of thing that we need to do. But we service hospitals and clinics and organizations across the country, and they have to worry about that. So we should be good enough where we are compliant, so they are compliant. And I think that was a huge issue because that is an advantage for you. You guys use compliance to maintain your relationships with these individuals and with these facilities.
That's exactly right. And the other point I made when we were bringing on the program was that we were acquisitive at the time. We had some M&A going on. And every time we did due diligence, our counsel, our deal team, had a list of questions to ask the target company that we may be acquiring. And there was always a section on compliance. Yeah. And I was very easily able to go to my management team and say, look, one day somebody's going to be asking us these questions. Yep. They're going to have a compliance section on their list of questions. We want to be able to have the answers to those questions.
Right.
So that really helped make the business case for it too.
This episode of the Compliance Advantage podcast is brought to you by Ronan Healthcare Compliance. At Ronan Healthcare Compliance, we believe in transforming healthcare compliance from a checkbox attitude to a strategic advantage. With decades of expertise, our team of consultants provides innovative solutions tailored to your organization's unique needs. We don't just help you meet your standards. We elevate your business, ensuring ethical practices are at the heart of what you do. Whether you're navigating complex regulations or seeking to enhance your compliance strategy, Ronan Healthcare Compliance is your partner in achieving excellence in healthcare compliance. Ronan Healthcare Compliance, redefining compliance, empowering leadership. Visit us at ronanhc.com to learn more. Now, back to the show.
We help with a lot of kind of sell-side due diligence, making sure they have compliance programs. And you're right. I mean, you want to see multiples go down. You want to see escrows go up. Nobody likes that when you're actually trying to do the best for your company. Yeah, I think the Ingenivis stint that you did there for quite some time is a great example of how to create an advantage for a compliance program. And I think you guys did it really, really well. And I think they're doing really well so far. So it's great.
That's right.
So when you look at it now where you're directly in the line of fire because you are billing and collecting and you are the chief legal officer, and I think you have a counterpart that's your chief compliance officer as well.
That's right.
I mean, I'm sure you partner together like we always have in that arena. So when you see what you're doing now and you look at other healthcare companies or you just kind of evaluate them across the board, what do you think that they may not be doing as well as they should be doing when it comes to compliance?
Well, that's a big question. And you're right. To begin with, coming into my current role, there was already a very robust and established compliance program with its own chief compliance officer, privacy officer, a whole team of investigators. So I sort of didn't have to worry about that. Luckily, I don't see a lot of shortcomings in my current institution's compliance efforts. They're doing a great job. But I think in general, compliance can be something that you need to have, but maybe don't give it the time and attention and effort that it really should have for it to be the advantage that you talk about on this podcast, that it really can be. I think it can be reactive rather than proactive. Mm-hmm. Again, in my organization, we're super proactive about it. We forward-leaning trainings, hotlines, all of that. But I think the risk of having it be on the bookshelf, even if it's not all you ever did with it, it can get stale, it can need updating, and not having it on schedule, on calendar for that time and attention can be a mistake.
Yeah, it's got to be a living, breathing thing that has to do something. It can't just sit there. And that's the proactivity, I think, part of it. And when something happens, you can pull it off the shelf and figure out what you need to do. And that's okay. But that's never going to help a company grow and expand and really be ahead of the game before something actually happens to you. You see that in your current facility?
Being ahead of the game?
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I do.
How do you see that in your current company as compliance being a strategic advantage? Strategic partner too.
Right. Part of the ability we have in making it as robust and forward-thinking as we do is actually with our board compliance committee. We have an engaged committee at the board level, and they really partner with us. They don't question the value of compliance at all.
Yep.
They're an experienced board. They've come from other healthcare backgrounds, and that's a big help just to have that advantage walking in the door. And if the board's taking it seriously, the company takes it seriously.
Yeah, and it's ironic how many board members ago I've been there. I used to be part of a company that had a CIA or an investigation or CID or something of that nature. So they do take it very, very seriously, and they don't want to be on that other side like they were before. So.
Right.
So when we talk about like thinking how you're talking about a board member or you're educating a board member, I'm assuming you guys do board education with compliance and legal and governance and things like that, as well as education to your kind of your executive team, right?
Yes.
How do you kind of make compliance case for them when there may be a big issue that can negatively affect the organization in a big way?
Well, for one thing, mandatory training is mandatory training. So that always helps.
Yeah.
From board level to every employee. Everyone understands that when that annual training comes around, they've got a certain amount of time to take it. And if they don't take it, bad things start to happen.
Yeah.
So the stick is as valuable as the carrot in that type of situation.
Yeah. Is there any advice you would give a CEO or a board member when they ask you, hey, should we have a compliance program? What benefits would that give us in your experience?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the benefits are fairly evident. It's when the government comes knocking, and in healthcare, that's fairly common.
Right.
You want to be able to not only have that compliance program on the bookshelf so you can point to something, but actually have that compliance program having been active in doing what it has supposed to have been doing, so that you can say, actually, government, I think we're okay here because here are our trainings, here are our audits, here are all the things we needed to do to have a bona fide compliance program, and happy to share that with you to help you decide what comes next.
There's a lot of CEOs and boards out there, board members, who may not be actively involved in their compliance program as they probably should. And there's a lot of someone else is handling that for me, like a compliance officer, CLO, something of that nature. When you see those kind of individuals, what's your best advice?
Well, it's good to have more than one outlet. So, for example, I was talking about our board has a robust compliance committee, a very active compliance committee. So if the CEO is not sufficiently active, hopefully you can educate your board committee or others on your executive team to take it seriously. A chief medical officer, for example, whoever's in charge of quality. But luckily, again, I don't have that problem. My CEO is actively engaged in compliance. But I think if you have a CEO who's not, you can continue to try to make the business case for why it makes sense for them to be engaged. And if you're still unsuccessful with that, get all the engagement around the CEO that you can.
Yeah. Just talking, keeping open lines of communication, being transparent is what I've found the best way to deal with executive leadership and boards. They just want to know, right? They just want to know, and they just want to know what's going to affect them and what's a risk factor to them.
Even if you have someone who doesn't want to know, give them the communication anyway and have a record of that communication. So you've been doing your part. And again, if anybody ever looks, you can see, well, okay, the CEO has been informed. This looks like a robust program.
And that's number one key for me as a compliance executive is you get to know what I know. And it's the same thing with the CLO, CEO, COO, and boards. It's like, I don't keep anything a secret because we're all in this together. And compliance is run from the top down, not just the compliance officer. So that's great. It's a little lighthearted stuff to talk about. What is a good book, movie, or inspirational thing that has led you in thinking about leadership and thinking about being an executive that allows you to have these kind of communications with boards and CEO?
Book, movie, or
other
podcast, the Ronan podcast.
There you go. Compliance Advantage. Yes.
That's a good question. And I came up as a lawyer.
Yep.
So I was motivated by the popular books and movies of the time. The book of Civil Action, which, thinking back about that novel now is very compliance related.
Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
think about it. So, and I think I've just had life experiences beyond any particular person or book or movie. The time that I had in the government was a valuable experience, really for the perspective that it gives me now, having been in on the company side for so long. It really makes me appreciate that when you have, whether it's OIG or DOJ, and they're looking at your records and they're talking to you, they probably have not spent any time in your seat,
right?
Which is a challenge from day one. So having that in mind and thinking of what my mindset was when I was a government attorney really helps inform me now. And obviously I always have outside counsel that's involved too. And sometimes they've got the government experience as well. But it is a reality that you have to understand so that you can put your best foot forward in any investigation, CID, what have you. You have to know where your questioner is coming from. And they may not have the experience or the perspective or the point of view that just because you're a healthcare company that makes money, has margins, has a board, maybe has shareholders, just because of that doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Right. It's such a great perspective because not too many people, like we started the whole conversation, have been on both sides and got to see both of those. I was a nurse that before I got into compliance. And I often say that from that perspective too, it's like I've been at the bedside. I've taken care of patients. I know what it takes to save a life and do all those kind of things. And on the other side of it, I can now talk compliance and regulatory and legal issues to those people who are doing that job. And I think you've learned that as well. And fun fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but 20 years ago, I really, really, really wanted to get out of this side and go to the federal side of it. So either join the OIG or like FBI or CIA or agent or something like that. But I was too old.
Sorry.
Apparently you can't do it after like 35 years old or something of that nature. So health is wealth. We'll wrap it up with that. I know you take care of yourself a lot. I know you used to be a big runner and you probably still are today. What do you do to take care of yourself? Because that's the most important part.
Right. I'm a smaller runner now. Used to do marathons. Now I try to squeeze in the occasional 5K or half. I also like to get to the gym.
Yeah.
My kids are too old. They don't play with me anymore, but I used to do that when they were younger and get involved in their sports. But time is always a challenge, but I try to get a workout in as many days a week as I can.
It's funny that you say a half. I'm assuming you mean a half marathon is a smaller race. Okay.
It is.
Yeah. Not for me. That would be a very long race for me. Anything over about 45, 50 minutes, I'm out. So
just got to run faster.
That's right. Yeah. That's good. Marc, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Such great insight. I think it's going to be a great podcast for all the listeners that are out there. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Compliance Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed it, please rate, review, and share this episode with someone who might benefit from it. Don't forget to visit us at ronanhc.com for more resources and connect with us on social media for the latest updates. And remember, compliance pays dividends. Invest today.